Ladies and gentlemen, belief is not just a thought. It is the force that drives ordinary people to do extraordinary things. It's the silent engine behind every dream ever realized, every goal ever achieved, and every destiny ever fulfilled. At some point in life, we all stand at a crossroads, facing fear, uncertainty, and the weight of our own self-doubt. And in that moment, belief becomes the difference between staying stuck and rising forward. Let's talk about how the power of belief can help you find the courage to fulfill your destiny through 4 key truths. Number 1, belief ignites action. It is the silent force that transforms thought into motion. Everything we do begins with a belief, whether it's the belief that something is possible or that we are capable of doing it. Without belief, our dreams stay dormant. They live in the mind as ideas, hopes, and wishes, but never make their way into reality. It is belief that turns the invisible into the visible and the impossible into the achievable. Think about it. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every powerful movement began with someone who believed deeply. Someone who chose not to wait for perfect conditions, but to take the first step. Belief does not guarantee that the journey will be easy, but it gives you the energy to start. Action begins when belief becomes stronger than fear. When you believe in a purpose, a calling, a vision, or even just a possibility, you begin to act differently. You take risks, you challenge yourself, you move forward even when you don't have all the answers. Belief acts as fuel. It drives motivation, especially when obstacles show up. When someone believes in themselves, they're not discouraged by the first sign of failure. Instead, they see it as a challenge, a test of how deeply they believe. The reason so many people give up on their goals is not because they aren't talented or capable. It's because they don't truly believe it's worth the fight. Belief gives you something to fight for. It pushes you past excuses and into action, because the pain of standing still becomes greater than the discomfort of moving forward. When you believe, your mindset changes. You stop waiting for the right time or perfect conditions. You realize that waiting is often just another form of fear wearing a polite face. But belief says, start now, use what you have, trust that what you need will come. This shift in perspective is what separates dreamers from doers. The dreamers may have big ideas, but the doers believe strongly enough to begin. Messy, imperfect, but in motion. Action born from belief is not reckless, it is intentional. It comes with a quiet conviction that says, even if I don't see the whole staircase, I will take the first step. That first step, powered by belief, creates momentum, and momentum creates growth, and growth leads to transformation. Every single act of progress starts from that one point where belief overcame inertia. You move because you believe it matters. You keep going because belief fuels resilience. Belief also affects how you respond to setbacks. Without belief, failure feels final. It becomes a dead end. But with belief, failure is just feedback. It's part of the process, not the end of it. You start to see obstacles as stepping stones, not stop signs. You understand that falling down is not the same as being defeated. You believe that each failure carries a lesson, and each lesson brings you closer to where you're meant to be. Moreover, belief isn't just about yourself. It inspires others too. When someone sees you moving with conviction, showing up when it's hard, acting with purpose and passion, it sparks something in them. Your belief becomes contagious. It can lift others, energize teams, and build movements. People don't follow perfection. They follow purpose. And purpose in action, powered by belief, becomes unstoppable. You might not always feel confident. Doubt may still whisper in the background, but belief is louder. It says, keep going. It reminds you of your why. It carries you through the days when progress is invisible and effort feels unrewarded. Because belief understands that every small step matters. Every action, even the imperfect ones, brings you closer to your destiny. You don't need to know every detail of your future. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to believe enough to begin. That's where the power lies, in the willingness to act. Not because success is guaranteed, but because your belief says this is worth it. Belief doesn't wait for certainty. It creates possibility. In the end, the ones who change their lives, and often the world, are not always the smartest, the richest, or the most prepared. They are the ones who believe deeply and act boldly. They know that belief without action is just a wish, but belief with action is a force that shapes destinies. And once belief ignites action, nothing can stand in its way. Number 2. Belief defeats fear not by eliminating it, but by overpowering it. Fear is a natural response. It shows up whenever we face uncertainty, risk, or the possibility of failure. It whispers doubts into our minds, tries to paralyze our progress, and convinces us that staying in our comfort zone is safer than reaching for more. But belief, when deeply rooted, has the power to rise above fear and keep us moving forward even when everything inside us wants to retreat. When we believe in something strongly, whether it's a dream, a goal, or our own worth, we gain the strength to face what we're afraid of. Fear thrives in the unknown, but belief gives us a reason to walk into it anyway. It doesn't always silence the fear, but it changes the volume. The voice of fear says, "What if you fail?" While belief counters, "But what if you succeed?" That simple shift changes everything. Belief gives us a new perspective. Instead of focusing on all the things that could go wrong, we start focusing on what could go right. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. Belief creates that something else. It gives fear a fight it cannot win because belief carries hope, determination, and a vision of something better. You start to realize that fear will always be present, but it doesn't have to lead. It doesn't have to decide your future. It doesn't have to sit in the driver's seat. When belief is stronger, you can feel the fear and still take the next step. There are countless moments in life where fear tries to stop you. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And if you let it, fear will talk you out of your destiny. But belief steps in and reminds you of your potential. It reminds you of the purpose you carry, the calling you feel deep inside, and the life you're meant to live. Belief says, you were made for more than this moment of hesitation. It calls you out of hiding and into your purpose. Belief is what allows people to start businesses with no guarantee of success, to speak their truth in rooms full of opposition, to try again after being knocked down. It empowers people to leave toxic environments, to pursue dreams others call impossible, and to stand tall when everything around them feels shaky. These actions are not the result of fear disappearing. They are proof that belief took over. Even in the face of failure, belief continues to defeat fear. Because belief doesn't promise perfection, it promises progress. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to keep going. Fear tries to tell you that failure is the end. Belief tells you that failure is a step. Fear says you're not capable. Belief reminds you that growth takes time. It strengthens you from the inside out, helping you walk through the valley with your head held high, even if your knees are shaking. Belief also transforms the way we interpret fear. Sometimes, fear is a sign that we're moving in the right direction. It means we're stretching, growing, and doing something meaningful. Belief helps us reframe fear as a signal, not of danger, but of opportunity. The more you believe in the value of what you're pursuing, the more willing you are to face whatever fear stands in your way. There will always be reasons to hold back, but belief gives you one powerful reason to move forward. And often that one reason is all you need. The future belongs to those who believe more in their calling than in their comfort. It belongs to those who feel fear and still say, "I will try." The moment you choose belief over fear, you take your power back. You reclaim control over your story. You don't have to wait until you're fearless to take action. You just need to believe that what's ahead of you is worth the risk. And the more you act on that belief, the weaker fear becomes. With every step you take, fear loses its grip and confidence begins to grow. It is in those small acts of bravery, rooted in belief, that courage is born and fear is defeated. In the end, belief doesn't erase fear. It simply makes fear irrelevant, because when you believe in your purpose, your strength, and your ability to rise, no fear can hold you back, and that's when true transformation begins, Number 3. Belief attracts possibility because it opens the mind, shifts your energy, and changes the way you interact with the world. What you believe shapes what you see, and what you see determines what you pursue. If you believe that nothing is possible, you'll stop looking for opportunities. You'll overlook doors that are open because you've already convinced yourself they're locked. But when you believe that more is possible, that something greater is out there waiting, you begin to see things differently. You notice chances others miss. You recognize potential in situations others call hopeless. Belief becomes the lens that reveals opportunities hiding in plain sight. Your mindset either limits or expands your reality. When you believe in growth, in change, in potential, you begin to live with expectancy. That expectancy sends a message to life itself: I'm ready. And life often responds in kind. Possibilities begin to align, not because circumstances change instantly, but because your internal world starts to shift. You begin showing up differently. You bring energy, vision, and determination. And that presence begins to attract people, situations, and experiences that align with the path you're meant to walk. Belief is magnetic. It draws in possibility by changing how you speak, act, and carry yourself. When you believe in something deeply, it radiates from within. It shows in your words, it lives in your choices. It drives your persistence, and people respond to that energy. Whether it's a mentor who sees your drive, a team that rallies around your passion, or a breakthrough that comes from sheer perseverance. Those things don't appear out of nowhere. They come because belief sets something powerful in motion. The opposite is also true. If you don't believe in yourself or your vision, no one else will. Doubt pushes possibility away. It clouds your ability to make decisions. It makes you hesitate, second, guess, and shrink. But belief says, why not me? It dares to think beyond limits. It doesn't ask, can I? It says, how can I? That small change in language unlocks creativity, problem solving, and resourcefulness. You begin looking for ways instead of waiting for permission. That's the power of belief. It activates possibility not just outside you, but inside you. Belief also helps you stay consistent, and consistency creates opportunity. The world opens up to those who show up again and again with faith in their steps. And not every day will bring instant results, but belief keeps you in motion. It gives you staying power, and that persistence attracts growth. Doors begin to open because you kept knocking when others gave up. Possibilities reveal themselves to those who stay in the process, fueled by belief that their effort is not in vain. Another reason belief attracts possibility is because it helps you see value where others see failure. You start treating challenges as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. You begin to believe that every delay has purpose, every struggle has a lesson, and every closed door leads you to a better one. That perspective turns even the hardest seasons into preparation for what's next. Possibility isn't just about good luck, it's about being open to what can grow out of hardship, what can rise from the ashes, and what can be built from brokenness. Belief also leads to clarity. When you believe strongly in a vision, you stop chasing everything and start focusing on the things that truly matter. That focus becomes powerful. It creates momentum. You begin to invest in your growth, your skills, your relationships, and your purpose. That investment draws opportunity toward you. People notice commitment. They recognize drive. They're inspired by belief, because it's rare to see someone so grounded in conviction. And that conviction becomes a beacon, drawing like-minded people and meaningful chances your way. You don't have to have everything figured out to attract possibility. You just have to start believing that more is possible. Believe that your past does not define your future. Believe that your limitations are not the end of your story. Believe that within you is untapped strength, potential, and purpose. That belief will guide you, grow you, and open paths you didn't even know existed. In a world filled with doubt and fear, belief is a bold and powerful force. It says, I may not know how, but I believe there's a way. And that belief becomes the spark that turns the impossible into possible. When you live with that kind of mindset, you begin to attract ideas, solutions, breakthroughs, and blessings that only reveal themselves to those who dare to believe. Number 4. Belief transforms obstacles into stepping stones by changing how we interpret adversity. Life is filled with challenges, moments that seem to block our path, detours that feel like delays, and setbacks that can shake our confidence. But belief shifts our perspective. Instead of seeing an obstacle as the end of the road, belief helps us see it as part of the journey, a necessary part. It tells us that the challenge in front of us isn't there to break us but to build us. That mindset makes all the difference. What we believe about the struggle determines whether we grow through it or give up in the middle of it. When you believe in your purpose, your dream, or your destiny, every obstacle takes on new meaning. It's no longer just a problem. It becomes preparation. You begin to understand that resistance is a sign you're moving towards something that matters. The pressure isn't punishment, it's refining you. Just like fire purifies gold, belief helps you endure the heat, knowing there's value in the process. Without belief, hardship feels random, cruel, and unbearable. But with belief, it becomes meaningful. It becomes something you can use, something you can rise from. Belief gives you the strength to keep moving when the path gets hard. It helps you stand back up after failure, learn from your mistakes, and keep your eyes on the bigger picture. When you believe that your future holds something greater, you don't let a single failure define you. You start asking better questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But what is this trying to teach me? That shift in thinking turns every setback into a lesson, every delay into development, and every obstacle into an opportunity. The truth is, most people don't rise despite obstacles. They rise because of them. The very things that seem like barriers often become the reason we grow, and it's belief that helps us see it that way. It's belief that says, there's still a way forward. That belief fuels creativity, resilience, and determination. It inspires us to look for another path, to keep showing up, to keep working on the dream when others would have walked away. Belief makes you resourceful. You find strength you didn't know you had. You dig deeper. You push harder. You become more focused and more committed because you believe it's worth it. Without belief, obstacles cause people to shrink. They stop trying. They convince themselves that maybe it was never meant to be. But belief silences that voice of defeat. It says, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something better. It turns pain into power and confusion into clarity. It helps you find meaning in the middle of your mess. That's what transforms a roadblock into a stepping stone. Not the removal of the problem, but the growth that comes through it. Belief also helps you look back with gratitude instead of regret. You begin to see how the hardest seasons shaped your character, developed your strength, and taught you patience. You realize that without those obstacles, you wouldn't be the person you are becoming. You start to appreciate the climb because you know it made you stronger, wiser, and more prepared. That's the hidden gift in every challenge, the transformation that happens inside you. It's not easy to keep believing when everything seems to be falling apart. But that's exactly when belief matters most. It's in the dark, difficult moments that belief becomes your anchor. It holds you steady when nothing else makes sense. It tells you to keep going when you feel like quitting. It reminds you that one day, what looks like a mountain will be a memory, a chapter in your story that showed your strength. Obstacles don't mean you're off track. In fact, they often mean you're right where you're supposed to be. Growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens in the struggle, in the stretching, in the moments that test your will. And belief turns those moments into stepping stones, steps that take you higher, steps that bring you closer, steps that remind you of how far you've come. When you believe deeply, you stop fearing the obstacles, you start using them, you start building with them. Every challenge becomes a tool in your hands, every difficulty a brick in your foundation. And one day, you'll stand on what once stood in your way, not because it disappeared, but because you climbed it, step by step, fueled by belief. So here's the truth. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to believe that your steps matter, that your effort is not wasted, and that you were born with a destiny only you can fulfill. Start with belief, because belief unlocks the courage to begin, the strength to continue, and the vision to reach the finish line. God bless you.